Hello and welcome to the 2026 Open Day Countdown, a series where we are counting down to opening day by covering all 30 teams in MLB. Yesterday we previewed the Minnesota Twins, and today we are covering the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last year, the Pirates finished with a record of 71 and 91, fifth place in NL Central, but they made a lot of additions this offseason, so I think they can really improve that record this year. So let's get into it, starting with the hitters, which is where they made most of their additions. Marcel Ozuna, Ryan O'Hearn, Brandon Lau, Jake Mangum, Justin Garcia, all five of those guys they added this offseason. And you look at it, they had seven guys who had a FIFA plus at least 100, and three of them were guys that added. So really, like, essentially doubling the depth of their lineup, essentially. And also, like, two of those guys who they already had, O'Neal Cruz and Manuel Valdez, those two were below average by WRC plus, but they're expected to bounce back. Maybe O'Neal Cruz definitely will, just because he's essentially he's ideally like one of their best players. Like he struck out a ton, but his power is immense. He should be barreling the ball a lot more than this, ideally. And Emmanuel Valdez, he probably won't get an opportunity in the big leagues, even though I really like him. So, uh, yeah, just Emmanuel Valdez probably not really getting many opportunities just because really small sample for him. And then you have Spencer Horwitz and Joey Bart, who were the only two above average hitters by WRC plus and BFA plus. And Horwitz again they're both platoon guys, but Horwitz especially is a platoon guy because if we look at the splits, against righties 125 WRC plus, 119 BFA plus. Against lefties 74 WRC plus, 89 BFA plus. So he's someone that I think will be platooned, and we'll get into how I think that will shake out in a bit. But yeah, he's someone that probably will get platooned. Brandon Lau, he's also a bit of a platoon hitter, just because you look at against righties 118 BFA plus, against lefties it's even worse, 49 WRC plus, 59 BFA plus. So he definitely should get platooned, but they don't really have the perfect platoon partner for him. They do have Nick Gonzalez, who I think should be the platoon partner, 111 BFA plus against lefties, but Gonzalez has been getting reps at shortstop, so there's a chance that Lau is an everyday second baseman and Gonzalez is an everyday shortstop on opening day. But I think what they should do instead is sort of have Gonzalez platoon with Lau. You form a pretty good platoon at second base, and then at shortstop you put in Connor Griffin, who best prospect in baseball for a reason. Like if I just give you his numbers real quick. At 19 years old, at single A, high A, double A, 21 home runs, 65 stolen bases, a 165 WRC plus at just 19 years old, and he does all that while being a Gold Glove defender at shortstop. Well, maybe not Gold Glove tier, but like he's definitely going to be an above average defender at shortstop. So yeah, he should be on the opening day roster in my opinion. Especially be an everyday guy. Just hand him the keys to shortstop. And one more guy I want to cover before I get into the pitching is Jared Triolo. He the numbers aren't great, I admit. 86 WRC plus, 97 BFA plus. But down the stretch, he did make some changes to his stance. What he did was he raised his hands a bit, and what that allowed him to do is sort of like lift the ball more. And as a result, down the stretch, he had I believe, a WRC plus in the 110 to 120 range, and that if you can get that level of hitter from Triolo while getting great defense at third base, that's a player you can count on every day. Yeah, let's get into the pitching. So the pitching had some depth, but they traded a couple of those guys away. Like they dealt Johan Oviedo to the Red Sox to get Justin Garcia. They also traded Mike Burrows in that 3-team deal to the Astros, which they got Brandon Lau and Jake Mangum, as well as Mason Montgomery, who we'll cover in a bit. Even then, they have five guys who made multiple starts, and all five were above average by BFIP. Paul Skeens, one of the best stars in baseball. I'd say he's like tied with Scuba. Like Skeens is the better stuff, but Scuba has a better command, and it just matter like what you prefer more out of a starter. Ashcraft and Chandler, they're a couple of young guys. They're sort of using that multi-inning role. Like mostly relief, but like also had some starts. There are guys who were good by BFIP, but you sort of wonder if they can sustain those numbers in uh full starts like 5-6 innings. And then Lazinski is sort of a similar deal where a he's sort of used like as a stretch reliever, but he's also someone who if you look at the splits, first time through the order, Lazinski was a pretty good starter. But once hitters started seeing him multiple times, they really got to hammer him pretty hard. So that's why his numbers overall like aren't that great. Like the splits, like first time through, great. Second, third time through, etc., very bad. So if Lazinski can like pitch deeper into games, like he's obviously a great starter, but he's not someone I can really. I don't know if I can really count on him for multiple. He's ideally a reliever, but because of the depth, not that deep, he's probably gonna pitch multiple inning starts for them. And then to round it out the rotation, Mitch Keller. This is a dependable arm, average ERA, average BFIP, 176 innings. You can't really ask for more than that from a guy who's technically the fifth starter, but I think he's probably starting in like second just because he has a bit of seniority. We'll get into the predicted lines in a bit. Before that, I just want to cover the bullpen real quick. So, bullpen. They had David Bednar start the year as a closer, but after he got dealt, Dennis Santana was the guy who's closing. 2.18 ERA was pretty good, but he for 4.24 worse than average, so he's not someone I'm really counting on to hold that closer position the whole year, you know? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, say, Mason Montgomery takes that role by the end of the year, because even though last year Montgomery had a pretty bad ERA, 5.67, better BFIP, and also the stuff from Montgomery is just electric. Like it's cut right fastball. Uh, um, he touches triple digits pretty consistently. They added downside on top of that. Just a very good pitch mix. Very hard to hit, and also he's a lefty as well. So you don't really see that often. That's why he strikes out as many guys as he does. Walks definitely a problem. But like if he can get the walk rates even sort of in check, he's a great starter. Sorry, great reliever. Sorry, he's not a starter. But yeah, also in the bullpen, Evan Sisk, Gregory Soto, Ozzie Matson, above average arms, good middle relief guys. Soto's probably more of a leverage guy actually. He has pretty good stuff as well as a lefty. It's not as crazy as Montgomery, but his fastball still like 96, 97, I believe, if I had to guess. So yeah, Justin Lawrence also another guy. He's not going to pitch a .5 ERA. Probably closer to the 4.18 BFIP. A ton of strikeouts, but a ton of walks as well. So he's someone that's probably going to be in that bullpen. And also, before we get into projection lineups, Jose Urquidy I just want to cover. Because he's someone, he only pitched 2 relief outings, but he's someone who is probably competing in a starting role. Like, the Fangraphs roster resource has him as a 5th starter over Mazinski. But I think Mazinski and Urquidy are going to be competing for that 5th spot. And ultimately, if you look at the particular lineups, I do have Mazinski in that starting role. Let's go position by position, starting with the catchers. Davis and Bart are sort of a platoon at catcher, even though they're both righties. Because against righties, Bart and Davis pretty similar by BFIP plus, but against lefties, Bart 106, Davis 76. Yeah, against lefties, you definitely want Bart in the lineup, but against righties, it's sort of a wash. So that's why I want. So I went with Davis because he has the better defensive numbers. Like Bart, he's someone who has DH'd a lot, not the greatest defender. So that's why he's not like playing as righties. It's going to be the guy with the better defense and similar offensive stats. At first base, you do have Horowitz and Flores in a platoon. There's actually a couple of ways you can go about this platoon because what you could do also is move Ryan O'Hearn from right field to first base. And then in right field, you put in Justin Garcia, who you got from the Red Sox. But ultimately, I went with Flores because, like, I mean, look at the overall numbers. like Flores and Justin Garcia. Big leagues, very small samples for both of them. So defer to the AAA numbers for both. And so by WRC plus, they're pretty similar. Flores had a 114 WRC plus, Justin Garcia had a 116. But if you go out by BFIP plus, Flores had a 112 and Garcia had a 92. So that's like a 20-point gap. So that's why I went with Flores, just because he's the better hitter overall. And against lefties, he's also much better against lefties than righties because he's a right-handed hitter. Now, this does give you 3 catchers on the roster, Davis, Bart, Flores. But teams are sort of like, I find that teams like a little bit more willing to have 3 catchers now, even though the bench is like a little bit limited. Just because if you have a guy who can like play catcher and first base, such as Flores, then that's someone who you can really that gives you a bit of nice depth and versatility in your roster. Again, Brandon Lau and Nick Gonzalez in a platoon. The alternative is Lau every day and Gonzalez every day at shortstop, but Hunter Griffin just has to be an everyday guy in the starting lineup on opening day, so that's why I have these two in a platoon. And again, it's a pretty good platoon. Like Brandon Lau against righties, 118 BFIP plus. I think his lefties, Nick Gonzalez, 111. So, yeah, pretty good platoon. PLO, if you're getting the second half PLO where he was really lifting the ball and dealing damage and hitting pretty well, and you add that with his good defense, that's a very good player at third base. In the outfield and DH is just everyday guys, Reynolds, Oriel Cruz, O'Hearn, Ozuna. Reynolds, I didn't talk about him, but he wasn't really that great last year. 99 WRC plus, 96 BFIP plus. But again, like, he was like one of the main bats in that lineup last year. Now he's not really relied on as much. So he's someone who can like really bounce back just because the spotlight isn't shining as bright on him now. With like Hunter Griffin potentially being someone, Brandon Lau, Ryan O'Hearn, Marcell Ozuna. Just like a very good lineup. Like instead of Reynolds hitting at the top of the order, maybe he's hitting 5th or maybe even 6th. Like it really, like we'll see. But yeah, that's the lineup. Again, Ozuna, good bat. O'Hearn, good bat. O'Neal Cruz, like hoping he can bounce back, but he should be a good bat. Now, as for rotation, very good 5-man rotation. Top 4 of Skeens, Keller. Again, Keller is his profiles is more of like a 4 or 5, but because he has a little bit more seniority over Chandler and Ashcraft, I have him as a 2. Chandler and Ashcraft are 3 and 4, and you sort of see, I'm not as confident in, like, I'm confident in them being guys like that can pitch well over 5-6 innings, but we haven't really seen that yet at the big league level. So that's why they're below Mitch Keller. And then Lizinski and Urquidy are sort of battling for that 5th spot. I think Lizinski eventually wins it, but what you could do is sort of have a piggyback situation where Lizinski pitches twice to the order and then Urquidy pitches twice to the order. And then that's basically like 7 or 8 innings you're getting from it's just 2 arms, and that's like not bad from your 5th spot. Like ideally you want like one guy pitching maybe 6 innings, but that's like if you can have 2 guys like Mizinski and Urquidy getting through 7 or 8 innings, and they're maybe only giving up 2 or 3 runs, that's still, you still probably take that, right? And then as for the bullpen, Dan Santana is closing, but I wouldn't be surprised Mason Montgomery sort of takes over that role, just because he has elite stuff, better peripherals. Just like, in my opinion, he's just a better arm, but again, Santana's like more closing experience, so that's why he's the closer. Yeah, and then Gregory Soto sort of rounds out the setup man. He also has great stuff, and then Madison Sisk Lawrence as your Middle East, and then also Brandon Bedoya, who I want to cover a little bit, because he hasn't made his MLB debut yet, but he started to get a high A, worked his way up all the way to AAA, and he also pitched a little bit at single A, so across all 4 levels, single A, high A, double A, AAA, he pitched 61 innings and had a 0.74 ERA, so that's a sub 1 ERA. And his B at AAA, he had a 0 ERA, so 0 runs allowed in 13 innings. And his BFIP was 2.84. So he's definitely someone that can really make an impact in that bullpen. His stuff is pretty electric. It's 96 mile per hour four seam with great so it's like 19 IVB, and then you have a side that gets a ton of depth, and also a changeup that also gets good depth and also sits 91. So that's like a really nasty changeup. The side is also very good, and so just three great offerings. It's great, ton of strikeouts, not a lot of walks. Like it is an 11.7% walk rate, but like it's not a crazy amount for a bullpen arm. Like you can survive with that definitely in the big leagues, especially with the kind of stuff that he has. So it was a relief prospect I'm really high on in this Pirates staff. So, anyways, the roster projection. Again, Skeens obviously their best player, but Marcelo Zuna, Brian Reynolds, like Roger really likes his defense, so that's why he's like a 4-win player, despite like coming off an average hitting season. And just like a lot of guys who can really contribute. And then Jared Jones also, like he's a guy who he's not on opening the roster just because he's gonna be hurt to start the year, but like once he comes back, you knock Mazinski into a relief role. Maybe you don't need Urquidy anymore. And then you have rotation of Skeens, Jones, Keller, Chandler, Ashcraft. That's a really nice 5-man rotation. And that's really going to cause them problems if they make the playoffs. But the only issue is their win projection. Only 81 and 81. Like they didn't make a lot of improvements, but it takes a lot to go from 70 wins to 85 wins, which is essentially like what you need to be in the playoffs. And like the Pirates, they're pretty close to that. They're at 81. But the thing is, like these projections, they don't account for Bubba Chandler. They don't account for Connor Griffin. And let's say, I'm just gonna add it here. Let's say Griffin's like 5-war player, like I guess like 6 if you count Soto, and then let's say Bubba Chandler's like a 3-win player. So let's say this is a 4. All of a sudden, Pirates are 88-74, and that's like definitely enough to not like compete for the division just because Cubs 9270 in that case, but like look at that, like that's like better than the Brewers, better than the Reds. Like that could be really good. They could definitely like make the playoffs if Chandler and Griffin pan out and are the guys that they were built to be. But 81 and 81, that's sort of like, I wouldn't say their floor, but it's definitely like on the lower end in terms of like what they could be in terms of the projection. Like that this isn't kind of like, let's say Skeens has like a 6-win season and Ozuna like let's say he's more like a 5-win player. That's when you sort of like add the wins, like now you're 82 and 80. Like this is a very good team. It might not be enough to make the playoffs, but they're definitely going to be in it, in the mix. Definitely, like they're definitely like in the mix for a wildcard spot, and all hinges on like if Connor Griffith can be the guy he was meant to be, if Bubba Chan can be the guy he was meant to be, if Jerry Jones can bounce back and be like maybe a 3-win starter, then all of a sudden that adds a couple wins. So there's like they have a pretty decent floor, but there's also like a lot of upside that you could count on to be to basically reach that ceiling as a wild card, potentially even division. Like I don't think they win the division, but they definitely have a chance to win the division. I yeah, that's what I have for the Pirates. A very good team. Like I know the projection is 81-81, but it can go a lot of different ways. Like they could be better, but they could. I guess they could also be worse, just because like if they get ravaged by injuries, then they probably finish below 500. If Ozuna, let's say, declines some more, he's probably not. Uh, maybe he doesn't give you 4 wins. Maybe he gives you only 2 wins because that's what he did last year. But yeah, lots of variance with the Pirates. I think they're a 500 team. Like if I had guess between over or under 500, I'd probably guess over, but we'll see. That's all I have for the Pirates. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.